To start with, I want to express our gratitude to the government of Gibraltar for welcoming us and including us in the dialogue for the implementation. I think that's incredibly important. It shows that they're willing to work together on this. As you'll remember, in 2019, Together Gibraltar had put forward a very similar scheme. I guess the outcome was very similar. The implementation, however, was quite different. The intention was that we wanted to reduce congestion, and by doing so, we could repurpose the extra capacity that was available on our roads. What we're seeing over here with the implementation is quite different. The reason why it's different is rather than taking this planned, a proactive step to reduce congestion, we're seeing almost a suck it and see type approach, whereby we're looking at reducing or restricting access to Line Wall Road. And while there has been a number of weeks that we know of that has gone into the planning of this, we're seeing a lot of the measures only come into effect right now, and we feel like more could have been done up front. What we're also conscious of is that any sustainable transport plan has to start with reducing congestion. And we have seen some mixed signals, some mixed messages on that front as well.
As you said, you proposed a similar scheme at the general election. The government has listened to your views, taken them on board. Could it be fair to say that perhaps you haven't really given it much of a chance by criticizing it in its first week of implementation?
Well, like I said, it isn't a switch that you flick and suddenly find that it's active. I would hope that weeks of planning have gone into this. So when constituents have reached out expressing that permits have still not been received, or you find that commuters are confused on the day, that shouldn't really be happening. It should be a case that weeks before implementation, people are very much aware of the measures that are going to be coming into effect, including whether mopeds or bikes are going to be allowed onto Line Wall Road. That is something that we've heard over and over again, and I think it's important that people know exactly what's coming into effect. What we'd like to see more of is that the measures that have been proposed and are now implemented are enforced as well. We want to make sure that this isn't a measure done in half. And we also want to make sure that it isn't diluted to the point that it is of little value. You know, when enforcement comes in, it shouldn't be seen as being draconian. These are traffic offenses. And as such, it's important that they're enforced. What we'd like to see as well is that further measures are taken into effect. If it's been implemented and it is piloted, we want to know when the next step is going to come into effect. When are we going to start digging up the roads and implementing the cycle lanes that have been proposed? When are we going to see a true pedestrianization of at least part of Line Wall Road?
So are you still in principle supporting the scheme and committing yourself to further assisting government if necessary?
Look, I've been very vocal, and Together Gibraltar have been very vocal in our support for the scheme. We know it's the right thing for Gibraltar. We know it's the right thing for Gibraltarians. We firmly stood behind a green agenda when we stood in the general elections in 2019, and we believe that this is a green measure. We know that if we reduce the amount of traffic on Line Wall Road, it does us all good. It leads to a more walkable, more cyclable Gibraltar, and that's the right thing for Gibraltar. So irrespective of whether the means of implementation is different, if there's a chance of making this a success, we are firmly behind government to do so.